Wringer, a book by Jerry Spinelli, Set 1. He did not want to be a ringer. This was one of the first things that he had learned about himself. He could not have said exactly when he learned it, but it was very early. And more than early, it was deep inside, in the stomach, like hunger. But different from hunger, different and worse, because it was always there. Hunger came only sometimes, such as just before dinner or on long rides in the car. Then quickly it was gone the moment it was fed. But this thing, there was no way to feed it. Well, one way perhaps, but that was unthinkable. So it was never gone. In fact, gone was something that it could not be, for he could not escape it any more than he could escape himself. The best he could do was forget it. Sometimes he did so for minutes, hours, maybe even for a day or two. But this thing did not like to be forgotten. Like air escaping a punctured tire, it would spread out from his stomach and be everywhere, inside and outside, up and down, day and night, just beyond the foot of his bed and in his sock drawer, on the porch steps, at the edges of the lips of other boys, in the sudden flutter from a bush that he had come too close to, everywhere. Just to remind him, this thing, this not wanting to be a ringer, did it ever knock him from his bike? Untie his sneaker lace? Call him a name? Stand up and fight? No, it did nothing. It was simply merely there, a whisper of feather wings, reminding him of the moment he dreaded above all others, the moment when the not wanting to be a ringer would turn to becoming one. In his dreams, the moment had already come. In his dreams, he looks down to find his hands around the neck of the pigeon. It feels silky. The pigeon's eye is like a polished shirt button. The pigeon's eye is orange with a smaller black button in the center. It looks up at him. It does not blink. It seems as if the bird is about to speak, but it does not. Only the voices speak. Ring it, ring it, ring it. He cannot. He cannot ring it. Nor can he let go. He wants to let go, desperately, but his fingers are stone, and the voice chant, ring it, and the orange eye stares. Sometimes he wished it would come after him, chase him, this thing that he did not want to be. Then at least he could run from it, he could hide. But the thing never moved, it merely waited for him to come to it. And he would. He would come to it as surely as 9 follows 8 and 10 follows 9. He would come to it without wanting to pedal or run or walk or even move a muscle. He would fall smack into the lap of it without doing anything but breathe. In the end, he would get there simply by growing one day older. His mother called, "Palmer, hurry! They're coming!" The doorbell rang. "Palmer!" He flew down the stairs. His mother waved him on. "Go, go! It's your birthday. You invited them." At the door he turned, suddenly afraid to open it. He did not want to be disappointed. "Are you sure it's them?" His mother's eyes rolled. "No, it's my Aunt Millie." "Open it." He opened the door, and there they were. Beans, Mutto, Henry, 3 grinning faces, shoving wrapped gifts into his chest, storming past him into his house. Beans bellowing, "Where's the grub?" Palmer stayed in the doorway, fighting back tears. They were tears of relief and joy. He had been sure that they would not come, but they did. He wondered if they would give him a nickname. What would it possibly be? But that was asking too much. This was plenty. They were here, with presents. They liked him. He was one of them. At last. Arms full of gifts, he pushed the door shut with his foot and joined them in the dining room. Beans was scooping chocolate icing from the birthday cake onto his finger. With the drama of a sword swallower, he threw back his head and sank his finger into his mouth. When it came out, it was clean. Mutto cackled and did likewise. Henry stared at Palmer's mother, who was glaring at Beans. Palmer's mother did not like Beans. She wasn't crazy about Mutto or Henry either, but she especially did not like Beans. "He's a sneak and a troublemaker," she had said. "He's got a mean streak." And she was right. but he was also the leader of all the kids on the street, at least the ones under 10 years old. It has always been that way. Beans was boss as surely as naturally as any king who had ever sat upon a throne. But he's the boss, Palmer would explain to his mother. Boss my foot, she would snort and turn away. Some things mothers just did not understand. Open the presents, Beans barked. He rapped on the table with a spoon. Mother rapped a spoon also. Palmer dumped the gifts onto the table, and for the first time, he took a good look at them. They were wrapped in newspapers, sloppily fitted, and closed with black tape. No ribbons, no bows, no bright paper. He tore open the first. It was an apple core, brown and rotting. It's from me, piped Mutto. You like it? Mutto howled. Palmer giggled. It's great, thanks. What a guy, that Mutto. The other gifts were a crusty, holey, once white sock from Henry, and from Beans, a thumb-sized brown something that Palmer finally recognized as an ancient cigar butt. Silverware hopped as Beans and Mutto pounded the dining room table, laughing. Palmer's mother, still glaring, came with more gifts. These had ribbons and bows and beautiful paper. Gee, she said, after those nice presents that you got, I feel really cheesy giving you this junk. Palmer opened them. A soccer ball, a book, a pair of sneakers, a Monopoly game. Thanks, Mom, he said. It was pointless to say more. Pointless to say, I like their presents just as much as yours because they did it themselves. That means something. It means we came into your house. We gave you a cigar butt. You are one of us. Palmer's mother lit the candles, 9 of them on the chocolate cake with chocolate icing. She started off the happy birthday song, but soon was drowned out by the boys, who screamed it rather than sang. When they came to the line, Happy Birthday, Dear, they glanced at each other and belted out, Snots, happy birthday to you. So they had done it after all, given him a nickname, Snots. He moved his tongue silently over the name, feeling its shape. For a moment he wondered if he would be getting the treatment, but he pushed that thought aside. He was getting greedy. He had already been blessed enough for one day. Make a wish, said his mother, and blow out the candles. She stared into the ring of candles. 9. Yellow flames, plump, liquid-like, perched on their wicks, and suddenly he felt the old fear launching itself from his shoulder and brushing a wingtip across his cheek. Just as suddenly as it was gone, and Beans was croaking, Hey, we ain't got all day. I got lots of wishes if you don't. Beans leaned across the table, took a deep breath, and blasted away. The flames vanished. Wick tips glowed orange for a second and then turned black. Let Beans blow away. Palmer didn't care. Nothing could blow out the candle glow he felt inside. Palmer LaRue, Snots, the world's newest 9-year-old, was one of the guys. It was never meant to be a real party. Just cake and ice cream, Palmer's mother had said. That's all. She did not want those little hoodlums, as she called them, in her house any longer than necessary. The boys dragged out the cake and ice cream as long as they could. Beans and Mutto kept leaving their chairs and wandering around and flopping on furniture. Palmer's mother kept shooing them back to the table. I guess you're done now, she said, anxious to shoo them out the door. More ice cream, they said. And then Beans started having to go to the bathroom, or so he said. He made 3 trips upstairs, probably spying on Palmer's room. As he headed up the stairs for his 4th trip, Palmer's mother grabbed his arm and announced, Okay, boys, party's over. Time to go out and enjoy the summer sunshine. As the boys left, Henry surprised Palmer's mother by saying, Thank you for the party. Yeah, Palmer called back. Thanks, Mom. Palmer brought out his new black and white soccer ball. Beans snatched it from him and booted it into the back of Mutto's head. Mutto squawked, and the 2 of them rumbled onto the sidewalk. Beans and Mutto rumbled several times every day. Each rumble lasted about 20 seconds, with both claiming victory. The ball bounced down the street and into the neighbor's front yard. The front yards along Palmer Street were very small, about the size of a blanket. The grass was neatly trimmed, and almost every yard had a border of flowers. Most of the houses were gray. Henry chased down the ball and kicked it back up the street. Henry always looked funny running, all arms and legs. He was by far the tallest of the group. Beans said, "Which one is Fishface's house?" Palmer did not want to say, but Beans was looking straight at him. "I'm not sure," he answered. "Not sure?" Beans gave a smirk. "Guess I gotta start yelling then." He cupped his hands and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Fish face! Fish face! Fish face!" Palmer pointed to the house directly across the street from his. "That one." Beans stepped up to the house and shouted, "Fish face! Fish face!" Palmer cringed. No one came to the door. No window curtain stirred. "Okay, Fish face, you asked for it." Beans turned to Mutto and Henry. "Let's leave her a little present." They searched the gutter. "Sewer grate," piped Mutto. The three of them raced to the nearest grate. Fishface was Beans' name for Dorothy Gruzzik. Beans and the guys hated Dorothy and harassed her whenever they got the chance. Palmer had never understood why, though now that he was one of them, maybe he would find out. Maybe now he would finally find a fish in her face. Palmer's mother had been trying to push Dorothy and him together as friends for years. Palmer had never been much interested. For one thing, Dorothy was a girl. She was in a lower grade and a whole year younger than he. The guys returned from the sewer grate with something in a plastic bag. "Just mud and sticks," said Beans gloomily. He went to Dorothy Grunzick's house and dumped it on the top step. His face brightened. "Maybe they'll think it's poop." He rang the bell, banged on the door, and everyone took off. It was the first time Palmer had ever run with the gang. He felt shivers of excitement. He screamed and beat them all to the corner. They kicked the ball around for a while, and then Beans said, "Let's go to the park." He booted the ball down the middle of the street. "Why don't we play here?" said Palmer, but the others were already dashing after the ball. "Let's go to the park." Palmer hated the park. He never played there, never swung on the swings, never slid down the sliding board, never fed the ducks, never watched a softball game. Most especially, he never went near the soccer field. For in 1 month, 4 short weeks after his birthday, the soccer field would become, as it did every year, a place of horror. He walked 4 blocks and he was at the park. He hoped they would be at the softball field, but knew they would not. Nor were they at the baseball field, or the basketball court, or the tennis courts, or the World War I cannon, or the playground, or the Boy Scout cabin, or the picnic area. He heard, then saw them at the soccer field, racing and yelping like puppies in a pasture. He stayed on the sidelines, walked along the chalked edges of the field. "Come on, Snots!" they yelled and kicked the ball his way. "I can't," he yelled, lying. "My leg hurts." To prove it, he threw the ball back. "I'll just stay here and watch." He hoped that they wouldn't be mad at him for not joining in. He loved to see them playing with his birthday present. Each thud of a foot said, "We're kicking your soccer ball. We like you. You're one of us." He wished it could stay like this forever. But it changed. Beans backed up and pointed at Henry and yelled, "There's one!" Henry began flapping his arms and swooping in circles, being a bird. Beans and Mutto made their arms like shotguns and pulled the triggers. Pow! Pow! Henry veered, lurched, tilted, staggered. To Palmer, tall, gangly Henry did not look like a bird at all, but a giraffe with 2 howling hyenas snapping at its knees. It had long seemed a curious contradiction to Palmer that among the 3 kids rollicking in the field, Henry was the tallest, yet also the meekest. Palmer had the sense that he was seeing more than a game, that Henry was not just a member of the group, but was also its prey. After a minute or two of lopsided, long-legged careening, Henry flopped to the ground. "Wringer! Wringer!" shouted Beans. "Wringer! Wringer!" shouted Mutto. 4 hands clapped around Henry's neck, shaking Henry's head like a rag doll, twisting it this way and that. "Wringer! Wringer!" Henry's legs flailing, shrieking laughter. "Wringer! Wringer!" Palmer tried to hold the moment there, but it would not stay. It tunneled back through time, and it burst up into the same field 3 years before, the first Saturday in August, when the grass was streaked with red and guns were booming and birds were falling, and from the treetops, from the clouds, they plunked to earth, thumped to the ground, sometimes with a bounce, and still some of them lived, flopping drunkenly across the grass until a ringer grabbed one by the neck and twisted, and that was that. Beans and Mutto were now at each other's throats, rolling, rumbling, rollicking across the grass. Henry woozy, but up now, laughing with the others, then heading off with the others, the three of them yelping and kicking the ball up through the picnic area. Palmer did not know why he stood there, alone at the edge of the field, the last place on earth he wanted to be. As the voices of his new friends died away, he was aware of the silence. He looked up. Nothing flew in the sky. Nothing called from the trees. For a moment, a dragonfly hovered before his eyes like a tiny helicopter, then darted off. That was all. Silence and stillness. He ran.